Yes, tonight's lesson is meditation. We're going to talk about what some of the science says. We're going to think about what it can do for us, talk about maybe some risks or drawbacks, and maybe what type is right for you before we do ourselves a guided meditation session. But of course, first we got to think about what meditation is. And they say, or the book dictionary definition is, a practice in which an individual uses a technique to train attention and awareness and detach from reflexive, discursive thinking, achieving a mentally clear and emotionally calm and stable state, while not judging the meditation process itself. But what the heck does that actually mean for us, right? Well, there is science to it, and there is some art to it. There's been a lot of recent study on meditation and its effects now that we have more effective techniques for, getting real, measurable data in the brain. But it is an ancient practice. People have been doing meditation in various forms in many different countries and cultures for a very long time, thousands and thousands of years. But it does have modern application. It does have effect. That's why people have been doing it for so long. However, we do need to try at least to separate the theology of its origins from the psychology, which is what we're really interested in. However, in the modern period, we also need to try to separate the spirituality from the psychology of meditation. We don't want to get into all of those entanglements because we're trying to think about it in terms of our health and wellness. What's the psychology of it? And hello, Nim6. Thank you for joining us. Great to see you here in the classroom. Like I said, it transcends many different countries and cultures. Ancient Greece did meditative practices. Obviously, Buddhist and Hindu traditions have a long history of meditative practices. But we'll do a little reality check first. It is a very fruitful subject of research in terms of the science we're going to do. There's been a lot of great research about a lot of different ways that it can be applied. And Valero, thank you for joining us, asks, how does one achieve a good mental state and build mental health when you get ganged up on and thrown out of a server for different opinions? That's a very interesting question, but I think it does have a general application in terms of how do you deal with mentally, how do you deal with outside factors that try to bring you down. It's important to focus on yourself and your own growth. Other people, the reasons they may do things, we don't know. We don't know what's going on in their lives that causes them to act in a certain way. But we can only control our own responses. In that fruitful research that has been done, there are mixed results, but they do tend to be positive. Some studies show very little benefit. Some studies show quite a bit. The results are mixed.
I have several questions.
You have questions? Feel free to ask them anytime, Nim. One of the difficulties, though, in doing research on something like meditation, that there is a ton to think about. There's a ton to consider. There are so many different psychological things that it's claimed to benefit. There are also so many different types of meditation. And there are so many different variables that need to be controlled for. The things that it's stated to benefit. Oh, God. Oh, that sound. The sound hurts almost as much as the actual dodgeball impacting my face. Yes, indeed, Nim. We will see the ferrets at some point during this stream when we take a little break. Moki and Ori, they have a little camera in their room that I will put on, and we'll go see them, and I'll give them a little treat. And we will give them their quarterly bath time. Oh, thank you for the gold stars. Yes, yes. A lot of the effects of meditation, they cover a lot of ground. They're affected by a lot of other things. What your diet is like, what your sleep is like, how much stress you've been under. And a lot of the research, up until recently, has had subjective measures. How do you feel? Rather than, say, brain scans that we can do with more modern technology to get at more solid, concrete, scientific results. And it's not for everything. It is not a magic bullet. It is not a cure-all for everything. Much has been subjective in the research until recently, where now we can have more objective measures. Brain activity in different regions, blood flow to the brain. But what is it good for? What is it good for? Yeah, I'm not going to sing the song, but yeah, what is meditation good for? What do people say that it's good for? What do these ancient traditions and modern practices say meditation can do for us? Well, those effects are moderate. Most of the studies that are good studies that have decent control groups and sample sizes, they show moderate results. But moderate is certainly a big leap. The biggest factors that it's showing good, positive, moderate results for is sleep. Something that we are very keen to talk about here. Our sleep lesson is one of our founding lessons. But it also seems to help prevent burnout. And our stress-related memory. How well we can recall things and details when we're under stress, when we're under pressure. Because as we've talked about in a previous lesson last year, we talked about memory and studying. When you're stressed, memory suffers severely. It's hard to encode memories into long-term storage when we're stressed out and worried about a lot of different things. So meditation shows some good benefits in these areas. And attention control, which seems to make sense. Some of the more possible benefits, maybe that we don't have as much solid research for, are things like emotional regulation, although that is still pretty strong. Empathy, depending on the type of meditation that you do, it may help to increase your capacity to empathize with other people. And it may increase what's called pro-social behaviors, rather than, antisocial behaviors. And some interesting study also helps us to understand it may have benefit for chronic pain tolerance. There's still more than that. We do need to study more, though, about how it might affect our immune function, our inflammatory responses. It has also been used in recent years to help people overcome addiction and potentially to slow cognitive aging. But of course, it would be great if we could continue to get more and more studies to back that up, because we want to know exactly what types of meditation are best for each of these things. How much that you should be doing to get the maximum benefit. What things might help augment and improve those effects, and what things you might want to avoid in order to get that maximum benefit. So, basic research. But that also leads us to, how does this work? How does it supposedly do all of these amazing, wonderful things that help us out so much? What are the mechanisms? Think about that. What do you think might be some of the mechanisms that it can improve all of these different aspects of our health and wellness? Hello, Empress. Hello. Great to have you with us this evening. Don't worry, you're not too late. We're still getting going. Frank says self-control. TV's Frank thinks self-control. Managing stress, Ivy says. I think those are both very plausible mechanisms. One of the big factors that the research suggests is an effect on the amygdala. Now, I don't usually get too much into the harder science stuff. This is a health and wellness class, not necessarily a biology or anatomy and physiology class. I like to give more of a brief overview of the science and focus more on the skill practice. We are a skills-based health class. But I think this is interesting because the amygdala is something we talked about in our sleep lesson and our breathing lesson. Does anyone remember what one of the major purposes, jobs of the amygdala is? We had a slide where we talked about what the amygdala does. Does anyone remember what the one word is that you could describe the amygdala in reference to? Enemy, you only know about amygdala in terms of Bloodborne? Well, that's certainly... video games can teach us a lot, yes. Ralsei says Angie, Ivy, fight or flight. Those are both correct. The amygdala is where we process fear and stress. So if an activity, a behavior, a medication, whatever it may be, affects the amygdala, it's going to impact our fear and stress processing and everything that stems from it. So it's believed that meditation can reduce our fight or flight response. Yeah, the lizard brain, and thus help to reduce anxiety. And anxiety is a very high order part of our social emotional well-being. Reducing anxiety has a whole host of downstream effects. It's also thought to impact what's called the anterior cingulate cortex. And you don't have to remember this. You don't have to remember this stuff so much. I am more interested in how well we can absorb and learn the skill practice we'll get to, but some fun information. The ACC affects our cognition and memory. And this is, as you can see, way up towards the frontal lobe, where we do a lot of our conscious thinking. Increasing blood flow to this area has a great benefit, especially if you're doing mind-body exercise, like say yoga and Tai Chi, which we'll talk about more a little later. These certainly help us with our emotion and cognition connection, the connection between these two things. Our fear and stress and our cognition. So it may help us have better attention and focus on our problems. Issues that arise, problems we face, put us in fight or flight, give us fear and stress. And it becomes harder to think about what our responses should be. Our judgment is impaired. If you're doing something that can improve both of these, then when you're trying to deal with problems that make you afraid or stressed, you'll be better able to adapt to changing situations. It may also increase the thickness of our gray matter. Gray matter is associated, or increases in gray matter are associated with better memory and better rational decision making. And impulse control, that emotional regulation, our ability to override our emotional impulses. We can also then perceive our stress as lower. We might still be stressed, and it's natural to be stressed. Stress is normal. Stress helps us to recognize when we're in a situation that might be dangerous or where we have to protect ourselves, but we can perceive that stress as less severe. So a broad array of different brain areas can be affected by meditation. This is a very important topic that I want to touch on because it may affect a lot of people in our broader community. People who watch live streams, Vtuber fans, Vtubers themselves. Because there's something that's called the default mode network in the brain. And this isn't a specific one place in the brain. It's actually a network within the brain. Like it says, default mode network. that connects a lot of parts of the brain. The default mode network is essentially a state that your brain is in. It is like the CPU of the brain IVS. It's like the underlying mode that you're in. When you're in your default mode, you are not focused when it's active. This is the state that your brain is in when you're daydreaming, when your mind is wandering, when you're thinking about nothing, maybe mindlessly eating or watching TV, not really focusing on anything. You know that state that you get into sometimes when you're walking the grocery store aisles? Or maybe when you're driving, and your brain kind of just shuts off? You're on autopilot? That's exactly what we're talking about here. I bring this up because current research, ongoing studies, suggest that because this is involved in our thoughts about ourselves and others, when we're introspective, when we're not thinking about things outside of ourselves, we're not focused, our attention is internal, disturbances in this area may be connected to signs and symptoms of autism and ADHD. A disturbance in this default mode may be a part of the symptoms that people with autism or ADHD experience. I have ADHD myself, so it's something that was certainly relevant to me. It's implicated in autism and ADHD because it may increase a person's distractibility, their attention and focus, like we were talking about in the last slide. So this default mode network, being a part of our attention and focus and distractibility, our mind wandering majestically through the sky, but I can walk. They can walk. Thank you for the for it redeem, Tony. Inside your brain, there is for it. Yes, indeed. Yes, the fact that the default mode network is involved in our attention, our ability to think about and respond to stimuli, which is why it is implicated in autism and ADHD. And meditation is believed to reduce the activity of the default mode network. And we also love our What a Thrill redeem because we love Snake Eater. Snake had a hard life. But you're so supreme. Yes. Anyway, yes, the default mode network is implicated in the symptoms of autism and ADHD because of its connection to our ability to remain focused, to pay attention to one or two specific stimuli, rather than having our mind wander rapidly. And meditation is believed to, or has some science backing it, that it can reduce the default mode network and increase the activity of our salience network. It also seems to have an effect on our brain hormones, like cortisol. Hormones are not just, estrogen and testosterone. Cortisol is also a hormone, the stress hormone. While it can reduce cortisol, it can increase GABA, serotonin, and dopamine, which induce more positive feelings and relaxation. Enemy asks, why does the mind hold on to random information and forget more important, yet smaller facts? Is it about the person, their exposure to the information? It is a host of those factors, yes. It's the stress you're under. It is the emotion attached to those pieces of information. When we have strong emotions involved in a experience or a memory, it can, depending on the emotion, either be harder to remember or easier. And of course, how important it is to us. Something important that you want to remember, like a person's name, maybe that person isn't actually that important. You know, you get introduced to someone at a party, you're like, oh, okay, whatever. You're thinking about other things. You're distracted. You're thinking about the party and all the other people around. Whereas when you're playing Pokemon, you're really invested. You're focused on it. But beyond those physical effects on specific physical parts of the brain or neurochemicals, psychologically speaking, meditation seems to have an effect on our ability to frame our thinking. When we engage in a situation, are we viewing it from an inherently positive or, catastrophizing sense? It may help to detach ourselves from problems we're facing and think about them more rationally. Yes, that negative self-talk, we'll get to self-talk specifically when we talk about self-talk in a full-on lesson. We will have a full lesson about self-talk specifically. Because a lot of this is backed by science nowadays. There's been a lot of research. Since we can do more intensive and specific brain scans to get very clear results about things. And the brains of people who practice meditation long-term certainly do show a lot of differences. But it's not perfect. And of course, we know very little about the brain generally, so it's going to take a while for us to understand. Oh, I appreciate that, Kiwi. Yeah, I very much tried to bring solid science behind it before we get into the practical aspect. I think it helps people to understand that the topic we're talking about is very important. When we talk about sleep, I want people to understand the sleep cycles and why that stage 2 is so good for your brain health before we get into the actual practice of how to get better sleep. Really motivates people, I think. And yes, Ivy, good meditation practice is something that is rote and repetitive, like a jigsaw puzzle or knitting. Your mind can really shut off that aspect and have a stimuli that it's working on while you can be in a meditative state. Oh,
welcome.
Gummy burgers, re-enrolling, getting back on the honor roll. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your support. I continue to say I never ask for any donations or subscriptions. So when people choose out of the kindness of their heart and their desire to support what we do, it means a lot to me. But we also need to ask ourselves the question, does it work? We talked about how it's said to work. We talked about what it seems to do. What do you think I mean when I ask, does it work? Does meditation itself work? It might seem like a difficult question, maybe a little abstract. Oh, and the fact that you are a nurse practitioner, Kiwi, is fantastic. I was just recently meeting and talking to another nurse VTuber, and maybe we can do some collaboration. Frank says that it depends on the person. Person might be a hard case, very true. The thing about it is, we have to disentangle it from other aspects. There's this thing in science called purple hat. And I'm not going to get into it too much, but it's called purple hat theory, or purple hat something. It means that a practice might work very effectively, but it might not be the practice itself. It might be some underlying part of that practice. And all of the other things that are involved in that practice are just like putting a fancy hat on it to make it seem like it does more. Like if you give a person a medication and it works, the medication works. But if you give a person a medication and have them wear a purple hat while they're doing it and say that taking this medication while wearing a purple hat works, well, does taking the medication while wearing the purple hat work, or is it just taking the medication? So what I mean by that in the context of meditation is that, number one, of course, there can always be a placebo effect. There is the expectation that meditation works. But more importantly, that meditation involves some underlying activities, like just slowing down your breathing. We had our breathing lesson earlier this year, and we talked about how it has a whole host of effects itself. Meditation also involves reducing our external stimulation, and we live in a very highly overstimulated society, so maybe it's just the fact that we're breathing slower and reducing our stimulation rather than the, concrete practice of meditation with some specific guidelines. And just taking a break from our stressful lives. Is meditation as a whole, as a series of practices and styles, is that what's giving us the benefit? Or is it just some of the underlying aspects of meditation? Because when you meditate, you're choosing to set aside time, and you're actively choosing to do something that you believe will help you. This doesn't mean that meditation doesn't work, that it isn't a greater than the sum of its parts activity, but it does make it harder to research. And a lot of the studies that have been done, they do have sometimes poor control groups, because what are you going to have the control group do that would be about the same length of time and be similar enough to be a effective control to compare to? What this does mean, though, that is good, is that if you have trouble meditating, if meditating is difficult for you, the full practice of it, you don't have to. You don't have to. You can just do those underlying things, like set aside a little time each day to just take a couple deep breaths in a minimal stimulation setting. And you'll get the benefits of those things. Maybe it won't be as much as a full meditative experience can do. Maybe that's a much bigger, better thing to do. But you can still get fantastic benefit from just doing some of those underlying aspects of meditation. But our next section, like I said, we're going to talk about potential drawbacks. That is, what isn't it good for? Are there any potential adverse reactions? Well, yes. People can actually get meditation anxiety. What does that mean? It means that when you are being introspective and taking your focus inward, that hyper-awareness that might be created can be difficult for people who, say, have OCD or PTSD. What's helpful for that is to have shorter sessions to help avoid being overwhelmed, and to engage in guided sessions like we're going to do later. Different types of meditation might also cause an increase in dissociation. There are some types of meditation that you are thinking about and focusing on your emotions, and there are some types where you are trying to be very detached from your emotions. And if that's done too frequently or too strongly, it might lead to emotional blunting, where you don't feel your emotions as strongly as you might like. That detachment from yourself can be too much, especially if you have a history of trauma or you have dissociative issues existing. What's helpful, if that is an issue, is to do activities that you engage with emotion, meditation styles where you are engaging with your emotions. And lastly, something can happen that is called emotional flooding. That is, if you are engaged in an emotional meditation, it might cause a lot of feelings to rise up that you're maybe not ready to deal with. When you are engaged in activity that might reduce your suppression of your feelings, when those feelings arise, they might be too strong for you to manage at that time. So the way to help deal with that is to just start slow. You don't have to jump whole hog into it with both feet. You can dip your toe in and start slow. Now, we talked about the effects potentially for those with autism and ADHD. So let's get a little bit more into that. What are the potential benefits and drawbacks? Well, some of the potential benefits are in helping people with autism or ADHD better manage their task switching. That is, their ability to stay on one task, move to another task, and not be rapidly switching between a whole lot of tasks. It can help people be more aware of their thought patterns and whether those thought patterns might be maladaptive. It can help what we call interoception, our awareness of our own body in space. It can help us feel more grounded and connected to our physical self, which people with autism or ADHD may struggle with. Bodies and spaces, as WAF says. Yes, we're very interested in our body in space. Empress, you say you're a person with autism, you have a problem with task switching, especially with meditation. Certainly, yes. So shorter, more manageable sessions, generally helpful in that regard. There are potential drawbacks though, like with any practice or health activity, just like there might be contraindications with certain types of exercise. It can cause a person who has either of those conditions to feel a sense of distress, to be uncomfortable when you are trying to sit still for an extended period of time. If you are in a meditative state and you are being able to focus a lot, you might get repetitive thoughts, especially if either of those conditions is comorbid with OCD. And it can be difficult, especially in autism, to manage the abstract nature of meditation. It's not usually something that's very concrete that you're thinking about. You are trying to engage with your mind in an abstract sense. So it isn't a perfect fix-all for everything. There are potential drawbacks, potential benefits, depending on your situation. And different types of meditation might be more appropriate than others. And speaking of the different types of meditation, let's get into a brief overview of a couple different types. And once we finish with that, we will do our guided meditation session. So if you are a person with autism or ADHD, Dragon says they have both. Shorter, more structured sessions can be beneficial. You can also do walking meditation if you have difficulty with remaining still. Guided meditation, then someone else external can help you stay on target on your meditation. Meditation can help train the brain to shift its attention more effectively. The first type of meditation that we're going to talk about, maybe the most famous, or at least the one everyone will recognize when they hear the term, when they hear this one word, and that is Zen, or Zazen. Zen meditation. This will be the first type we go over. And let me know if you've practiced any of these types of meditation before. But Zen is the one where we typically think of that classic pose, that lotus pose with the hands sort of cupped. Zen has roots in Buddhist tradition, initially primarily in China, and then a very strong and widespread practice in Japan. It involves sitting in stillness, stilling your mind without attachment, observing your thoughts, but not giving any attachment to them, letting them rise and fall. So this is a more abstract style of meditation, a more detached from the self. The focus of Zen meditation is on your breathing and your posture. Sitting up very nice and straight is a specific posture that you are meant to practice Zen in. What is Zen specifically good for? The benefits that are supposedly associated with Zen meditation are an increase in your mental clarity. Because you are repeatedly stilling your mind, it can help you to think more clearly. Because Zen meditation can be somewhat challenging, it can also increase your self-discipline. Your ability to get yourself to do things that maybe are challenging or require you to apply yourself. And because you are detached from yourself during this meditative style, it can improve your introspection, your ability to think about yourself. But like any type, it isn't perfect, and there are potential drawbacks or challenges. Some of those may involve the fact that it is a difficult practice, that it does require patience and discipline, so it might not be ideal for someone with, say, ADHD, with a high degree of distractibility. If you do want to try Zen meditation, before you go looking up guides and start practicing, you can think about whether this style is right for you. You sit comfortable but upright, a straight posture, cross-legged, your spine straight, and rest your hands in your lap, usually with your eyes somewhat lidded, not focusing on anything. And you focus on your breathing, making note of each inhale and exhale, allowing any thoughts that you have to happen, but to pass on without engaging with any of them. And use your breathing as a way to bring yourself back to center. Often people will do morning Zen meditation for 5 to 10 minutes, and they may do it before trying to make any important decision because of its ability potentially to increase your clarity. The next type of meditation that we're going to talk about is mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness is also very popular, and mindfulness has come on more in recent years because it can have a more secular basis. But it does still have Buddhist and Hindu origins. And it involves being present in the moment. You are observing your thoughts and emotions. You are more aware of your thoughts and how you're feeling, rather than what you're doing in Zen meditation. But you are still observing those emotions, considering them without judging yourself for having those feelings. The focus is still largely on your breath and your posture. The potential benefits of mindfulness meditation are reductions in stress and anxiety, and how rapid your emotions may change in different situations. And it's generally just easier to do than other types. Still isn't perfect. Because you are considering emotions and still absorbing them, it can lead to some anxiety. Sort of paradoxically, it may help reduce anxiety, but it can also make you feel overwhelmed. It can also require more consistency. You may need to do it more often to get these benefits, to help train you to be more aware. And it is also now very widespread and more secular in nature. You can do a quick search and find 50,000, 100,000 books, depending on where you're looking, about mindfulness. And mindfulness practice has seeped into all kinds of other areas. But mindfulness involves being mindful of a present moment and continuing to bring yourself back to that moment and how you are feeling, what you are hearing, what your body sensations are like. We'll do a little bit more mindfulness when we have a mindful eating lesson. You may have heard of that practice. But it can also just be done anywhere, which is another reason people really like it. You can just be more mindful anywhere. The third type of meditation we're going to talk about is called loving kindness meditation. That might sound like some sort of new age type, but it is still a practice that is rooted in ancient traditions. It involves what's called a metta, or a prayer or mantra. This is a mantra type meditation. It's also based on treating yourself with compassion, increasing your compassion for yourself, which helps you increase your compassion and empathy for others. Your goal is to generate that self-love and goodwill for yourself and all living beings. You do, throughout this type of practice, focus on specific phrases, specific mantras that you repeat to yourself while you're engaged in this meditation. Some of the things people like about this type of meditation and that it has benefits in, obviously, improving your self-acceptance. Like a lot of other types of meditation, it does potentially help reduce anxiety, specifically social anxiety. If you are loving yourself more, it's going to make it easier for you to participate with other people. You're not going to be worried so much about their judgments of you. If your opinion of yourself is raised, it's going to be easier for you to consider that other people's opinions of you might be improved. Some of the drawbacks or challenges with loving kindness meditation, it can feel intense because this is another one where you are focused on feelings. You are not letting the feelings pass. You are trying to focus on generating positive meaning. It is still pretty abstract though. And some people don't like mantra meditation. They don't like that repeating that saying because that can feel distracting to them. In doing this type of meditation, considering whether it's for you, what it involves is, again, sitting comfortably, this time with your eyes closed, and repeating certain phrases. The standard phrases that people repeat in whatever language they speak are things like, "May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be free from suffering." And as you repeat that mantra, you start out extending those feelings to yourself. Then you move to a loved one. You think about a loved one and you extend those feelings to them. Then you think about someone that you have a neutral relationship with. You do the same. Then you move to someone that you maybe have a negative relationship with or a challenging relationship with. And then finally, you extend those thoughts and feelings to all beings. All the way throughout, trying to feel warmth and compassion. So this can be something that you do for a few minutes or for an extended period of time, but some people may do it before a social activity because of its benefit on your pro-social behavior. But you can pick all different kinds of sayings. There are a lot that are sort of standardized, but you can just pick things that you like as well. Things like, "May I be here now. May I embrace my fears. May I love myself," for example. Another type that can be harder to talk about, and I was hesitant on whether I would include it or not, is transcendental meditation, or TM as it's sometimes called. It did begin very strongly as a religious practice and much more recently than others, so it is not an ancient or as ancient a practice. Rossi asks, is this the stuff the Beatles got into? Yes, this is the one that both the Beatles and the Beach Boys and other artists of the time got really strongly into. This was begun by gurus, and it's considered a sort of religious/non-religious practice in that it has these religious origins, but it has become a much more commercialized secular practice, which turns some people off who want one or the other. Perfectly fine if you want a very spiritual practice in your meditation. It's perfectly fine if you want to engage in it in a purely secular manner for the scientifically researched benefits. But this sort of split can be difficult to wrap your head around. Transcendental meditation is taught specifically by a certified TM instructor. This does make it easier to practice because there's a person teaching you how to do it. Your focus here is on a personal mantra, so it is another mantra-based meditation. The benefits people say they experience from, and there may be research for, that it induces a deep relaxation. And there are a lot of different practitioners, a lot of instructors throughout the country, throughout the world, so it isn't hard to find one. It may also provide some mental clarity. But those drawbacks, of course, it does require that trainer. And those courses do cost money. That secularization issue. And it can be repetitive because, again, it is another mantra-type meditation. Very similar to other mantra-type meditations, though, you silently repeat a mantra to yourself. In this case, the main one that everyone knows is Om. Om Shanti, something like that. And if your mind wanders, you simply return gently to your mantra. Typically, this one people do for 15 to 20 minutes at a time. I'm muted, yes. We'll be talking about moving types of meditation. Meditation where you're not just sitting still, where you are getting up and moving around. Practices like yoga, tai chi, qigong. While these can be done in a non-meditative sense, you can also engage in meditative behaviors while you're doing these. So you're doing a meditative approach, but applied through movement. And in fact, some people think, well, wouldn't it be harder to meditate while you're moving around? It may actually make it easier. And this goes back to something Ivy mentioned earlier, which is a very good point. People can sometimes meditate while they're doing something like knitting or doing a puzzle. Movement may help to occupy certain parts of your brain so that the rest of your brain can actually engage in this meditative practice. Benefits of moving meditations, these different styles, of course, you don't have to remain still. You can be moving around and doing something. Because you are actively using your body, it can help improve your body awareness. And of course, if you're doing any kind of movement activity, you're getting some physical health benefit from it. This does mean that you got to go back to that slide of us talking about disentangling. How much of it is benefit from the meditation aspect and how much of it is from the other underlying activities that you're doing. But either of them can help reduce stress, so it does stand to reason that doing both at the same time would also help you reduce stress. Still, there are drawbacks like anything else. Most of these require some level of instruction. You probably don't know yoga off the top of your head or know Tai Chi. It also takes more time because, you go through a 15-minute yoga session, you may need a little more time than a 5-minute simple mindfulness meditation. And you may need space. If you're doing something that is moving around, you're going to need more space than just sitting right where you are doing a meditation. You're just engaging in slow, controlled movements in whatever type you're doing, whatever you choose, and feeling fully present in each moment, controlled breathing, considering how your body feels. And this is something that I love to advocate for, walking meditation. I mentioned yoga, tai chi, qigong. You can also just go for a walk and do meditation while walking. And we know walking has enormous benefits. We use walking all the time in physical health practice, in health promotion. And if you're doing a meditative approach, focusing on breathing and how your body feels, maybe doing a mantra while you're walking, it can have great benefits. as long as you're focused enough that you don't walk into traffic or something. Combining physical activity and slow, controlled, paced breathing might be the one for you. But that leads us to guided meditation, which is the one we're going to do right after we talk about it. In guided meditation, you use mental imagery. You're not thinking about nothing. Oh, Ozzy Alpalka, welcome. Thank you for enrolling in our little classroom learning community here. Great to have you with us. Hope you're doing all right tonight. And a little cute cat gif emote. We love that. Great to have you with us. We're going to briefly discuss guided meditation before we do our practice, so you're just in time to do it with us. Guided meditation involves mental imagery, bringing up images in your mind to focus on while you're in the meditation. You have a guide, someone guiding you, hence guided meditation. Someone is specifically helping you to set the scene and leading you through. And that guide, what they're talking about, what they're saying, can be tailored to a specific type of outcome. There can be a guided meditation that focuses on stress reduction, or anxiety reduction, or improving your social behavior, or trying to improve your memory, all different types of things. The focus in this type of meditation is to observe, but still feel. So it's different in this regard than some of the other types of practices where you are observing completely detached. Benefits that people get from guided meditation, of course, stress relief and sleep. Two of the classic things we always talk about. And it can also be easier because you have a guide helping you go through the process. Drawbacks, though, it can be difficult for some people to bring up the imagery that they want. It can be too concrete. It might be easier for them to do an abstract where they don't have to imagine anything. And some people may just not like a passive type of meditation where someone else is leading it. They might want to take control themselves. But still pretty easy to do. You can just find a guide who's decent at doing it. And you can sit or lie down comfortably and just follow their instructions. As long as you do so in earnest and you sincerely engage and engage your senses throughout, it can be effective. With that said, we're going to do this type of activity. I am going to lead us through a guided meditation session. I want to say a few things before we start. And first is that this is just going to be a gentle, guided visualization. And our focus is going to be on reducing anxiety and promoting calm, things I think that will be the most universal to as many of you as possible. All you have to do to follow along is relax, listen, and follow the directions. Decide if this is right for you, though. We talked about the potential benefits and drawbacks of a couple different types of meditation. So think about, is this something that you want to participate in? And if you would like to, start preparing your space. That is, turn off any other distractions. All you have to do is listen. Ocarina of Time music, yes. Hey, listen. I wish I had those as soundboards. I should. But yes, prepare your space. If you have lights on that are too bright, you can dim those. If you have other distractions going on, close those off. Put your headphones on if you're listening with speakers, because you'll want to be able to focus just on what we're saying. Make sure that you're sitting or lying in a comfortable position, because we'll be here for a good couple minutes doing the session. If you're sitting, make sure that you're supported in your chair. If you're lying, make sure you're not sort of hanging off the side of the bed or couch. Adjust the volume so that it's at a comfortable level, and make sure that you can hear the background tone that we'll be playing. But also prepare yourself, that is, prepare your mind, prepare your body for what we're about to do. But stop if you feel it overwhelmed at any point. You're free to just stop. It's okay to shift around. You don't have to remain perfectly still. You can have your eyes open or closed. It's up to you. And don't force it. You don't have to force yourself to have that perfect visualization. So I'll give you a few moments to get started. Let's take a minute. Let's take 60 seconds to just get our space ready and get ourselves ready. All right. Take a few more moments. And we're just about to get started. Okay. I'm going to turn off all of the redeems and any of the alerts so that we don't have any distractions. It's just going to be me and you. So as you get ready, I'll remind others if you're not going to participate, you can just observe. Please be respectful and hold any questions that you have until the end. But if you would like to, please, I encourage you to try it. Again, this meditation is designed to ease anxiety, to ground you in the present moment, and to bring a sense of safety and relaxation. Take a moment to settle in. Allow your body to relax into your chair or the bed, your feet resting on the floor or the bed, your hands gently on your lap or by your sides. And if it feels comfortable to you, gently close your eyes or soften your gaze. Before we turn inward, take a moment to recognize that you are safe here. This space is a place of peace, and you are welcome here just as you are. There's no need to change anything about yourself in this moment. You are enough, you are supported, and you are safe. Take a deep, slow breath in. And as you exhale, release any tension that you may be holding. Let's do that again. Breathe in, gently filling your lungs. And breathe out, allowing your body to soften a little more. Keep breathing naturally, not forcing it, letting it happen. Now, bring your attention to the gentle rise and fall of those breaths. No need to control it. Just notice it. As you breathe in, imagine a sense of calm spreading through your body. And as you breathe out, release any tension, any heaviness. With each breath in, that air spreads calm throughout your body. And each breath out exhales all your tension. Continue to breathe. If thoughts come and go, that's okay. Simply acknowledge them, gently return to your breath. Now, let's release tension from our body, starting at the feet and moving upward. Bring your attention to your feet resting on the floor or the bed, fully supported. Flex your toes and hold it, and release them. Feeling all the tension melt away. Bring your attention moving up your calves. Tense them. Hold it, and release. Feeling all the tension melt away. Then bring your attention rising further to your legs. Tense your thighs and hold it, release, letting go of any tightness. Bring your attention further up, your abdomen. Tense the muscles, hold it, release, letting go of any tension. Your attention further up to your chest and shoulders. With each breath, allow your chest to open, shoulders to drop slightly, releasing any weight you've been carrying. Fully supported in your chair or bed. Bring your attention to your arms and your hands. Notice any sensations in your arms. Flex your fingers. Hold it, release, letting any tension go, melt away. Bring your attention to your face, jaw. Let your jaw soften. Lips rest naturally. Each breath becoming more and more relaxed. more than you thought you could. Each breath, finding more and more tension to release. Keep breathing. Entire body now is resting, supported and at ease. Now, imagine yourself in a place where you feel completely safe, comfortable, and at peace. It could be a quiet forest, sunlight gently filtering through the trees. It could be a warm, sandy beach, the waves rolling over the shore. Be a cozy room filled with your favorite scent. Find that place. Find that place. Take a moment to picture this place in your mind, filling it with detail. Immerse yourself here. Notice those details, colors, the textures, temperature of the air around you, smells. With each breath, become more a part of this place. Continue to notice the details around you, colors, textures, temperature of the air. Every part of this space is yours, welcoming and safe. By yourself, but you're not alone. Each inhale, this place fills you with calm. With each exhale, you sink deeper and deeper and deeper to relaxation and safety. You belong here. You are welcome here. You are safe here. Continue to live in this space, breathing and immersing yourself, color, texture, with each inhale, more and more calm. Each exhale, deeper to relaxation. now you are fully a part of this place. Every part of it is yours. Take another deep, relaxing breath. This place tells you you can come back here anytime. Take another deep breath. As you exhale, slowly return to the present moment. Another deep, relaxing breath. Slowly becoming more and more aware of the space around you. With another deep, relaxing breath, notice the feeling of your body resting in the chair, bed. Feel the temperature of the air around you. Faint sounds in the background. Another deep, relaxing breath. More and more aware of the present moment, space around you. Another deep, relaxing breath. Fully aware. When you're ready, take another deep, relaxing breath. To open your eyes, breathe out. Taking your time to return fully to the present. Continuing to breathe naturally. When you're ready, fully aware and awake, refreshed, relaxed. Continue to breathe normally as you become acclimated to the world around you. I'll let you sit here a moment, get oriented again. Okay. We'll return to the room now. Very good. Excellent. You just did something very important. So, congratulations. You've just given yourself a moment of peace. Whether you felt deeply relaxed or your mind was wandering, both are completely normal. This practice is always here for you. Whenever you need a moment of calm, you can return to your breath, to this safe place in your mind. to the simple awareness, being present. It is perfectly fine if you are almost asleep. It definitely means you are relaxed. You can carry this sense of peace with you as you move forward tonight into tomorrow. You can go back here anytime. If you felt relaxed, if you feel like less tense, that was you. It's all you. The important thing is that you did what mattered. You took the time, you chose to do something for yourself. Before we end the lesson portion, I want to leave you with one important phrase. Meditation is a practice, not a performance. Meditation is a practice, not a performance. The goal is not to perform it for someone else or do it perfectly. It's a practice. It's designed to benefit you. Whether you went to your astral temple or a relaxing lake, the ocean waves, or a cozy room, or a gentle, quiet forest, that is your space. You can explore as many as you like. Ralsei finds themselves by a pyramid, sleek and gray, glowing yellow and white. Others in the mist in the distance. That is their place. Tell me about yours if you like. And tell me how you feel. Tell me if you feel like that had benefit. Or if maybe you'd like to try a different type of meditation. You lets us get a glimpse of their inner life, their old school. It's a beautiful orange sunset, back in their old school days. Silver says there's the field of flowers in a valley in the mountains. Beautiful scene. Wes went to an old friend's house from childhood. A grandma to them. It's the kind of person that makes you feel safe. Ivy was in a field with long grass, some snow. That wonderful Christmas air. My space that I like to go to. I don't know if it was real. I've told some of you this before, maybe a long time ago, but it's a place that I feel was real in my past. Empress sees a starry sky, love, herald their elephant, dancing. find myself in a place I think I remember, distant edge of my memory, or a place I grew up, just outside of a large open field, but not too far in the distance, large forest. I always stood at the edge, imagining what the inside of those trees was like, what it must be like among those trees. They were always blazing orange, bright yellow, orange, red leaves. Feels like every time I stood there, it was autumn. I got the most mystical feeling. Forest can be a very magical place. I stood there as a child, in awe and wonder. These beautiful orange trees. It's a place I find myself thinking about a lot. Even tune, few notes of a song I can't remember. Few little flute notes that replay in my mind all the time. That's my special place that I go to. Thank you for joining with me in that exercise, taking the time to do something for yourself. I hope that you can continue to do that activity whenever you need to. So, as we end the lesson portion of our session tonight, your homework is only to incorporate any of those practices we talked about. Try one again, sometime between now and the next time we see each other, and tell us how it went, how you feel. And of course, let me know if you have any questions about what we went over or our prior lessons. If you have any comments about tonight's lesson, maybe what we could do to improve in the future. If you have any feedback about the lesson or streaming in general. Or if you have suggestions, definitely, for any future lessons, topics we can cover, people you think might be good for us to collaborate with on a future lesson. You can absolutely meditate while sleeping, certainly good to do to try and help you sleep. Thank you, Kiwi, thank you. But this means that you have completed our meditation lesson. I present to you this certificate of completion, as we do with every lesson, on our meditation class. If you would like a copy with your name on it digitally, you can jump into our Discord, which is linked in the chat now. You can also follow us on our socials, Twitter, for as long as that continues to exist, or Blue Sky. Yippee! Fantastic, congratulations, yes indeed. You can also find all of our previous lessons at the link there. All of the VODs of our previous lessons are there, and the VOD of this lesson will be uploaded by tomorrow. I just cut out the introduction stuff before we start the lesson and the breaks. You can go back and watch that anytime and do that guided session again. Again, thank you so much. Thank you, Wes. It means a lot to me. And we have a wonderful little community here. I say it all the time, but the fact that 12, 15 people would choose to spend a few hours of their Saturday night with me, learning something from a cartoon badger on the internet, that means a lot. It means something special about you, that you care about your health and wellness, and you're interested in more than just the entertainment that's out there. Well then, everyone, thank you so much for sticking around after the break. You know what we're going to do, actually, before we get into the game? Some of you may have never seen our ferrets before. You may have never seen our class pets. So we're going to go visit them before we start our game session. You're going to get to see Oki and Ori, perhaps for the first time. Thank you so much for watching this lesson. I hope you learned something useful and that you can apply it to improve your quality of life. If you liked what you saw, make sure to follow the channel and follow us on Twitch so you can join our lessons and games live. On the screen, you'll see links to our channel and our playlist of other lessons. Thank you again for watching and for supporting independent streaming and educational content. I hope to see you next time. Class dismissed.